Thank you, Carolyn. So let me just give some reflections on what this really tremendously exciting set of developments means for evaluation. First point is that big data is not new to social science. I spent, before I became an evaluator, I spent 20 years as a research economist, and my colleagues and I were used to using very large data, fast data. We had the luxury, though, of framing our questions where the data was. So one fine day I woke up and found myself in the land of evaluation, and I said, okay, well, where's the data? And I found, because we were asked to evaluate everything, anything, and I found that the data wasn't there. We had no baseline data, there was certainly no comparison group data, qualitative data was very, very haphazard. The data came either too slow, because we'd have a project that was going on for 8 years and meanwhile had been replicated 50 times and it hadn't been evaluated yet, or it came too fast. The concrete had been poured on a dam, time for the completion report, we have no idea what its impacts are. But help is apparently on the way. So we've seen this explosion of stuff that's happening. Just briefly to give you an idea of what's happening at the World Bank, within IEG, where I work, we've been using remote sensing data. I'll mention that briefly later. We've been using Facebook to get input from beneficiaries. In the operations part of the bank, there's really an efflorescence of innovation. Some people are trying to use mobile phone surveys to do statistically representative bi-weekly surveys of project beneficiaries. There are projects that are using qualitative feedback as part of the semi-annual supervision process. There's an explosion in remote sensing and GIS data, which my own specialty is in environment, and there's just incredible resources available for that. And slowly this is beginning to find its way into project operations. We have some projects that are really beginning to think about how they can use real-time feedback in the way that Robert mentioned to improve the project implementation. So what are the challenges of doing it? There are a bunch of immediate challenges. One challenge is that if we're serious about using big data, it's tough. Just as an example, I was working with colleagues on an evaluation of the effect of protected areas, national parks, on preventing deforestation. We used about a dozen data sets. Just one of those, the data set on forest fires, had 1 trillion data points. We had observations every 6 hours on 13 million points on Earth in 2 different frequencies, and this stuff had to be filtered to determine what was actually a fire and what was sun glint and what was clouds. So massive work in assimilating using this data. The big challenge that I think was alluded to in the previous presentation is the correct use of this high volume but non-representative data. We've seen some compelling examples of how this is tremendously useful for early warning for all kinds of purposes. There's going to be an incredible temptation to use this data in a quantitative way. We econometricians spend 95% of our time worrying about selection biases of various kinds. But I think that, as was pointed out, there are ways to think about combining data sets, combining the large volume non-representative data set with smaller representative data sets to calibrate them and try to use this in a way that evaluators can use for quantitative purposes, in addition to having a much richer source of qualitative information. Finally, I just want to signal a long-run challenge. I think that this will ultimately change the way evaluation is done and the role of organizations like ours, such as the Independent Evaluation Group. In the past, we've benefited from monopoly access to data. We've had a privileged position. But now the twin innovations of, first, a tremendous trend towards open data, and second, the availability of this data, means that soon everybody will be able to evaluate. This is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing because more eyes on the data, more competent evaluators, researchers looking at the data is a great thing. It's worrisome because there are many ways in which these data are subject to misuse or misinterpretation. So just sketching what the roles of evaluation groups might be in the future, One role of an independent evaluation group might be to assure that the integrity of the systems that are generating the data streams. Another role might be to review and do meta-analyses of this growth in rigorous evaluation of the stuff that's coming out. So in short, I think that we're really entering into a golden age of evaluation. But just as the data is changing, so too will be the way that we work. Thanks.